How do tariffs impact apartment development?
The first step is trying, from a tariff perspective, is trying not to overreact. I think we hear things and can respond to them really quickly politically when maybe there's, a longer picture there or something we don't understand, or it's part of a larger negotiation that is, going to lead to something else that could ultimately be a positive. And I think, I don't know for sure if that's the case here, but I try not to, really overreact until we really see what the impact is and how it's going to impact things more directly. Because the off-the-cuff response is, as a real estate developer, most of my projects are all wood frame construction. A lot of that wood comes from up north from Canada. Obviously that would have a direct impact on already, hyperinflated from a couple years ago construction costs. But I think, again, when you take a step back, maybe part of the reason for this tariff negotiation is ultimately to force the Fed to start lowering interest rates a little bit. And, I think that is much needed. Again, as a real estate developer, financially, that impacts projects a lot. But also, I think for several months with how quickly rates went up, there have been a couple metrics that it seems like the Fed has looked at to determine that the economy is just doing great. When I talk to people locally that are businesses, whether that's construction companies, architecture firms, or when I talk to private equity groups that are working on large M&A transactions, the transaction volume has just gone down significantly in the private sectors. And, maybe folks are doing deals, but they're smaller, or it takes, 3 or 4 times as long to get a project completed. And I think a lot of that is because these interest rates have made it really challenging to get business done.